G'day guys, Mackie with the Outer Circle. Joining me is Kat.
Hello, everybody. Happy Merry Easter. Happy Easter. I know it's the Saturday. Why the fuck is it? So you got Friday, which was zombie. Oh, sorry. Jesus gets put in cave. Sunday he becomes zombie. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. So happy in between zombie day. Yeah, in between resurrection. Almost resurrection day.
My sense of humour is positively dad humour at times, and people at work will ask me, "Oh, what are you going to do for Easter?" I said, "I'm going to pull a Jesus." And they sort of looked at me funny and went, "Oh, I'm going to disappear on Friday and reappear on Monday." So I found it funny, but nobody else did.
And there goes all our subscribers.
They've stuck with us through all of our shit posting. They've stuck with us through our own songs that you did. They've stuck with us through me shitting on armies on parade. I'm sure that joke is probably the least of our worries.
True, but they have the edginess. More edgy every single week with 20% more edge increasing. One day we'll create an edge so large it'll destroy us all.
Yes. So, what have you been up to this week, Kat?
I've been toying around with my army list still. It is going to be expensive to get my order for even recast. Couldn't imagine what it'd be like if it was Forge World, but for my Dark Angels army, and looking up for third-party bits as well, because being Dark Angels, they rock Mark II armor primarily, and some Mark III. So I'm trying to find some legs and stuff to suit bikes, and Cromlech have something Cromlech, or is it there's another one? There's another one.
Anvil
I think
Industries, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that was the one. And yeah, that is about it. And model-wise, I've done next to fuck all.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
I made a mess. That was about it. I should really clean my hobby. I looked at some sisters' brews. Oh no, they're fucking marine sprues. I got some marine sprues right here. Just looking at me. I'm gonna use the heads, the Dark Angel heads for my troops, for my veterans. I'll put the Dark Angel Knight heads on them, I think, just to make them stand out a little bit more. But yeah, what about you? How much hobby have you gotten in somehow?
Well, I think I got some pictures on my Space Wizard. So, been doing a little bit more work on the Space Wolves. But those two Primarchs that rocked up in the mail I've been working on. Now, I've got more Turian finished since I took the photos that I put up on the page. And got a picture of my Primarchs in their display case. And I've been working on Lemon Rust, but I haven't quite finished him because he's actually been a real pleasure to paint, believe it or not. So he's been sort of what I've been up to. Bit of work in it. A lot of detail in old Lemon Rind. Still got to do a lot of work on like the shoulders and things like that. And at the moment, a lot of it's in sort of base colours, and I've just been doing like trim and things like that, trying to get the colours right. And the base, for some reason, a lot of people paint the base as like concrete with like the white limestone on the surface. That's not how concrete works. I don't know, one of those like niggly things. You know how I like to pick on niggly little things that mean nothing?
Yeah, man. Like, I see fucking spacemen from the future running around on concrete all the fucking time. So you should be fucking period, right? Should be to the fucking point. Where, well, when I have my giant spacemen running around concrete, I want that shit to be like, realistic.
Yeah, so I've got I took some photos of the Primarchs in the cabinets real quick one night. Obviously, they're not nice photos, but it's pretty cool. I'm getting through them all, piece by piece. They cost a lot of money, Primarchs, but I just enjoy painting them. I don't really use them. I've only ever used Korax against you, and that was a stand-in, and Perturabo one time at an event.
And he got his fucking head kicked in. Ooh, take that, Korax. Korax is a weak Primarch, though, jeez. In game, I don't like. Game sounds like you've got a dog there. Is it eating your mic?
Yes, the dog has run into the room and is trying to eat my bags.
Get out of here, dog.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to welcome our co-host, Macca's dog. What's the dog's name?
Willow is her name.
That's odd, because willows are usually grey and it's a brown dog. Why didn't you call it
Brown dog.
brown?
Because that's
Brown.
racist. That's racist, mate.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no, we're going to...
African American
great.
dog.
No, don't go down that
racist
path now. No, it's brown. So is poo. Poo is brown. Chocolate's brown. Call it Easter. Easter bunny. Oh, yeah. Easter dog bunny. Delicious.
So,
yes.
that's what I've been up to. I've almost got my Grey Slayers squad finished. Those Chaos Space Marine conversions. Oh, sorry, like they're Chaos Warrior bodies with like Mark III power armor combined with them to make like these real Viking-looking Space Wolves. I'm really liking how they've come out. Actually, I'm gonna toot my own horn and say I'm actually happy with my work.
Fantasy Vikings. You don't see a lot of. It's really Vikings portrayed in movies a lot different than they are or were.
Well, the Viking look's not working for me that Forge World's done so far. Like they what they've released with the Space Wolves is very, very Legion-y, if you know what I mean. Like there's no like real wolfy stuff hanging off them. Like yeah, sure you can give them a Space Wolf's chest, but it's not quite the same. Whereas these guys all have like fur pelts and ragged cloaks, and I've got them all holding like fucking axes and shit, like old school axes. So they look like they're gonna just axe some fucker in the head. And one dude's got a mace. You know, Dudley Smithers. I always had my mace.
I've never gotten that thing. You know how it's archaic pronunciation of I'm going to actual question. That's why I keep a baseball bat on me, so I can baseball bat people a question. You know, sometimes I like to trolley pole people a question or machete people a question. Oh, and the mace that you made for me, I can mace people a question. Love that. Anywho, we should probably get into actual hobby shit rather than macing people a question.
Yes. So, new Thunderhawk has been previewed. Now, I
don't want to rub it in to everybody and say that we were fucking right and, you know, that we're the info wars hammers of the internet. But we fucking told you so. You snort that shit up, alright? You have been betrayed by Games Workshop. They fucking put that cardboard box there and wrote Plastic Thunderhawk in there just so you could get hard. And they're fucking rubbing away. And then, boop, they're gone. They chop your dick off. And they eat. And you're sucking it up. Games Workshop, please treat me like a piece of shit. Yeah.
So, brief history of events. Obviously, a couple of weeks back, a week or two back, we spoke about the Plastic Thunderhawk in our show. I said I'd love it to happen, but I doubt it. And since then, obviously, one of our sources, a couple of people are good and send me messages and stuff and say, oh, you know, without naming names or what they do, here's some info. But generally, we don't really release said info because we don't want to be like certain other internet sites I may have picked on in this last week, where any unsubstantiated rumour just pops up. And I mean, there's been some fantastic ones that people have written in the comments on some of our videos, talking about, you know, rumours that we should restart. And I thought, oh, geez, some of those might be worth restarting, so we might bring some of those up later in the show. But yeah, I don't like to talk too many rumours because, frankly, at the end of the day, until something's set in paper, you know, that's the way this company rolls, unfortunately. They change their minds all the time. Sculpts get previewed, then they go back to the drawing table. For example, like the Tyrant Siege Terminators. Apparently they had a working prototype of those like 14 months ago, something like that. But they didn't move ahead with them because they weren't happy with the look at Forge World, and they went back to the drawing board, started all over again. Korax was another one. Originally Korax, I hear, you know, this is rumour, so obviously 110% confirmed, originally was going to be whip armed. But they had a lot of trouble with the whip. It was breaking a lot, or they were having trouble moulding it, because obviously being very long and thin, it's very hard to get it to pour. And so having tons of trouble with his whip. So they went back to the drawing board on Korax, and he got pushed back behind Gilliman and Perturapo. That's just the way these things go, right? So rather than turn around to all our viewers each week and say, oh no, this is definitely 100% happening because I heard it from a guy, I just don't touch it. So, I don't know, you got an opinion on that, Kat?
I got into a fight with John Blanche, but
Andy Hall last week, John Blanche this week.
Yeah, man,
you making
people
all
just
the friends.
fucking. I used to like John Blanche and Lawrence Prince, and yeah, I didn't have any issues. And apparently, me calling him Blanchy, and him calling, I was like, he started calling me an angry young man. I'm like, yeah, you call me angry young man, and I call you Blanchy. It's a thing we have, and yeah, a lot of people didn't like that. I was getting a bit too chummy with the people, but anyway, they were cool. They were cool.
Unfortunate thing in this community is people are very how do I put this? They get very defensive of like the staff and the company. Like, have you ever been on Games Workshop's Facebook since they brought that back? And you'll see comments, and people will be in the thread nearly every time. There'll be a comment saying, "Don't say anything negative, because we don't want them to take away the resource again." And it's like, dude, they don't need you to stand up for them. Like, you know, everyone is fucking equal.
It kind of reminds me of people defending religion, like, you know, whether it be Christians or Muslims. They're warring for their God. Isn't their fucking God omnipotent and like he's got the world's most hacks? Like, he can be fucking everywhere at any one time. He can listen to everyone's fucking thoughts and shit. He doesn't need a fucking human with a fucking AK or an M4 defending him. That's the last fucking thing he needs. He'll clutch everything. He's the fucking world's most fucking hacker. He doesn't need you to do shit. Like, the fuck? If that's, like, you know, whatever, if you're religious. If you're not religious, I don't know.
Yeah.
Martin Bryant, he doesn't need anyone
It's funny
to
how
defend
it
him.
goes, like, because I just treat everyone the same. You know, I don't treat Games Workshop writers and staff as anything special. They work for a company. I work for a fucking company, right? They're not going to come to me needing steel and treat me like a fucking god and go, "Oh, Mackie, you make the best steel," and, you know, "Oh, you're such a good engineer." No, they don't give a shit. So why should I give a shit, right? Same as, like, how people treat women in war games. Like, and don't get me, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, women are these precious things," and, but, you know, some guys are real fucking creepers whenever they see a woman on a fucking page, and a chick can hop on Facebook and post like the shittiest fucking model and get 700 likes, all because it's a chick, right? It's like, they're just a person. Just treat them like anyone else. If they do good work, praise it. If they do bad work, tell them they do bad work, you know? And last of all, if you see them in a fucking game store or at a games club, don't, like, stand there behind them trying to sniff their hair and just heavy breathing the whole time. They're just a normal fucking person. Leave them alone. Unless, like, you know, I do that to Wadey. I stand behind Wadey and, like, sniff his hair and breathe heavily in his ear. But that's a thing him and I have that we share, right?
See, with the whole negative light thing, see, people can get into this hobby at 40 years old or whatever, and they do shit work because it's the first thing they fucking painted. And then they get an abrasion of, like, no, that's shit. And that demotivates them to try again.
Well, that's what I said. Always try and be constructive. Like, there was that dude who put up a post on, I think, Oz30k community this week, and it was some shitty fucking Space Wolves he was doing up, and he was using the Thousand Suns rules for Space Wolves from 30k as counts as 40k. Like, it was all kinds of fucked up, and everyone was down in the comments just, "This is shit, this is fuck, this is a shit idea." And then people were tagging me, and I was like, I've got nothing to say. And people were like, "Oh, what? You got nothing to say?" I'm like, no, because I could make a fucking essay, right? I could write a whole essay to this dude about, like, how crap this idea is. He doesn't care. He does not give a shit at the end of the day what I've got to say about the matter. You know? I'm just fucking Joe Blogs. And if he wants to do that idea, there is nothing I can say that's going to dissuade him, right? Unless I was to threaten the guy, and that would be completely out of proportion with the situation. So I just said, look, there's nothing to do. I deal with the Boltons of the world already. Like, there's nothing that I can fucking say to this guy to change his mind. Just let him do it. Let him do it. I don't care. So, yeah.
Just quickly on the buy, swap, and sell page. So two things I want to bring up. First off is someone is selling Sons of Horus Reavers for $450, postage for $480. There's 55 of them. Sorry, there's 40 of them. 40 for 450. That makes not a lot of fucking sense. But yeah, and a lot of it says in the post they're fucking recasts. So he's blatantly trying to make a profit here. That's ridiculous. And I don't know about those forums.
People are a lot like elephants. Some of them are just jerks.
You gotta, like, you can't talk them down though. Like, you could send them a message saying, hey, but I would only pay for that, like, fuck, I don't even know what I'd pay, $100 maybe? Recast. Get the fuck out of here. Half painted. I don't want to have to fucking strip them and paint them and shit. It's just more work for me.
Well, the problem with that is, like, you buy them, you're buying someone else's problem, because I find a lot of cunts on buy, swap, sell.
Like cars.
I don't want to generalise too much, but they're often people who failed at the project, or they just never put the effort in to start with, and that's why they're selling it.
It's too big.
So shit's like covered in mould lines or poorly assembled. Like, I've got a bunch of Castellax here, and every single one of them had the arms glued on backwards. So I've had to go through and snap like all the arms off, clean them all up, re-glue it all. You know, just a total fuck around for my time. All the shoulder pads had massive mould lines on them, and they hadn't cleaned them up before they started priming. So then I had to go back, go in with the scalpel and try and cut the worst away, and then sand it smooth. And first world problems. But the point is, people are charging full price, right? And regular retail price and all sorts of shit for like recasts, their hand-me-downs, and it can be really fucking frustrating at times, can't it?
No, it's just shifting through all that shit's kind of bad. But anyway, so if you're listening, you might want to bring your price down. Also, another person tried to sell, or scalp rather, limited edition plastic Terminator captains for $250 each. He got one of the admins just posted, you can get those for $8 recasted. And then the post was gone. He posted that and then just deleted it. Like, the admin, deleted the person from the group because just like, nah, I've had enough of that cunt's fuckery. Just trying to scalp plastic.
Too many admins are really chilled, like too chilled on a lot of these buy, swap, sell sites. A lot of the admins are like, they'll see some shit going down. They'll be like, oh, yeah, and they're very limp-wristed about how they deal with it, you know? Like,
well, this one was fucking
especially when you come along and you're like, this guy is a fucking cunt, and here's the reasons. And some admins, like, they get all defensive of the person. They're like, oh, whoa, you can't just go calling a guy a cunt. Where's your evidence? And then, like, 10 people comment, here's why he's a cunt. And they're like, oh, so maybe they're a cunt?
Fucking, when they've got, like, multiple class action suits against them, probably a cunt.
They're careful, they'll send their law student after you, Cat.
They can't hurt a lion. Sorry, a lion? I was watching a video of a lion. I said they can't fight a cat. But every cat thinks that they're a lion. I am pretty much a lion. Better to be a lion one day than a fucking sheep for the rest of your life, right?
Yes.
Anyway, let's move in. Let's move into the memes. So we were on the Thunderhawk thing. I don't know if you have that picture up.
Yes, I do. So obviously this is. Well, do you want to describe what it is?
If we look at the same picture, this is an Horus. Sorry, Sons of Horus. Thunderhawk. Here's the old meme. Old boy. They used to come in fucking... When they first released this thing, it came in white metal. That's
yes.
sick.
That white metal Thunderhawk. I had the pleasure of going to a store that had 3 of them in their front window, and they literally sagged onto their own weight. Had like droopy willy syndrome. You had to give it Viagra.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Yep.
Well,
so then they went
metal,
into right? I don't know what. You'd think that this would be like the third. Like they'd have to. This would be. They would have made some sort of adjustment. Maybe not. But I guess one from white metal to resin. I guess it's like its second.
Well, when it went from white metal to resin, it got a lot bigger. And it was a completely new sculpt, basically. Completely different, completely new sculpt, just keeping the same sort of aesthetics. With the changes that have happened over the years, like a lot of people like to point out, don't take 40k so serious, man. 40k is like it's a joke. It's an inside joke about Judge Dredd.
It is.
Like, it was 30 years ago, but they're trying to make it more serious. Or at one point, they tried to make it a lot more realistic. I know Forge World is. And then Games Workshop, at some point about 2-3 years back, around the time of the end times, decided to start trying to get in on that World of Warcraft crowd. So they've now got two diverging design aesthetics, where Games Workshop's going really cartoonish and Forge World's going very realistic. And the old Thunderhawk kit, which was a piece of shit to put together by all accounts, didn't fit into that. Is that the best way to sort of sum it up?
I like it. I like the look of it. That's painted really well. It seems.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen a lot of badly painted ones, because it seems that some of the worst painters seem to have the most money. Also, on that note, if I see one more terribly converted Roberta Gilliman plastic miniature, I'm going to start fucking hunting cunts. I hunt the most dangerous creature of all, Neckbeard.
On a side note, I've got a competition running. Fucking make Mac a rage, and I'll fucking give you a thumbs up, mate.
Dude, it's like bad armies on parade boards. The amount of terrible... You know what the worst one is? They're lion conversions. The lion just seems to attract shit cunts who... I don't want to be a jerk about it, right? But you need to know your limits.
You're way beyond that point.
Well, I am. But you need to know your limits with your hobby, right? And like, when I first started buying Forge World, do you think I went straight to a super heavy? No, I started little. I started with some Mark II power armor and a couple of Mark I rhinos, right? And then I worked my way up from there, just little bits and bobs, and as I got more comfortable with it. And I've seen people go out and they're like, oh, the first fucking model I'm going to tackle for my army, and this is the first army I'm doing, is a lion conversion, because I've read the fluff and I think the lion is cool. And they do it, and it's just terrible. It's like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, you're spoiling it for yourself, though. Because eventually you're going to look back at that and you're going to go, I'm not happy with what I did. And you're going to be depressed about it. And, you've wasted all this money on a beautiful model. Not that model's fucking beautiful, but...
Yeah, I don't see how they could fuck it up any more than it already is.
Well,
really.
I
think it's a great starting point, because it's such a large surface area. You can fuck it up, and you'll learn along the way. You'll learn a fuckload. Just like throwing people in the deep end.
They just take the existing model and they just glue more shit to it. That's not how it works. You can't just glue another shoulder pad over its existing shoulder pad.
Well, you like ice cream, don't you? Ice cream's better with chocolate syrup and sprinkles, man. What's up?
No, thank you. That'll give you the diabetes.
Yeah. So we'll fucking Lionel Johnson.
Anyway, this Thunderhawk has been rebuilt, and it's now Malibu Stacy with a brand new hat. So, I like the new Thunderhawk look.
It's
the differences
more
though.
Square.
It's less square. So the nose now tapers from the lower to the top is now tapered, and the hull from about in line with the upper wings at the front. The name is escaping me. I will say, well, they're not ailerons, but I'll call them ailerons for the sake of it.
Looks like something Saab would make.
From the front wings, it's now angled upwards, like on the SOCAR Stormbird, which has obviously been the inspiration for this. And they decided that the old windows look terrible, which I have to agree with. So they've given it a new cockpit. They've also made.
Do you actually get a plastic thingy with that cockpit? Is it actually clear plastic or no?
It looks like it is. So.
Yeah, it is.
With like a frosted frame.
Yeah.
So the heavy bolters at the front are now bolted to the hull in limited traverse mountings or sponsons, much like the 40k Storm Raven is for the Space Marine chapters. Instead of having the underslung heavy bolters, which, probably wouldn't do too well under re-entry conditions, but hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? Space Shuttle Challenger, anyone? Also, they've modified the upper winglets at the back with the las cannons on them. They've now put like hollow cutouts into them and added in some capacitor banks around the battle cannon / turbo laser on top, which is also being cut away a little. They've also removed the top winglet from above the dorsal fin and actually opened up the air brakes at the back. Hopefully this is better to build than the old Thunderhawk kit, but being resin at that size and hollow, I imagine would still be just a fucking prick.
So how many are you getting? 2, 10, 20?
Oh, maybe
Give me
one recast. Oh shit, did I say that out loud?
You bought a fucking Mastodon, mate.
I did.
This is probably going to be cheaper than the Mastodon.
I fucking hate the Mastodon.
The Mastodon's £800 or £800?
Nah, it was like $500, man, something like that. I don't know. Cost a lot.
The next one of this thingy to come out will have to be the Rhino carrying one. So look forward to that for that thing.
Transport. I don't know. Do you prefer this new one or the old one?
I like the old one, but that's because of the whole for the purposes of that's what I'm used to. This will grow on me. I never had a Thunderhawk, so it really doesn't matter. The fact that you don't see any on the table because they're 600 points.
Yeah, there's something expensive.
So you need 2 2,500 point games, and even then they're just crap. They're not great.
They're not too great. No, I don't know. I've always liked the Thunderhawk. I've just never found a way to integrate it into my lists seamlessly. Not when there's better options out. Like, I'd rather the 2 Storm Eagles for the same cost in points. So, yeah, cool kit, you know. It is what it is.
If they bring out some mad new rules with this thing, maybe that's how they're going to start pushing them out.
Nah, Forge World won't. Not for the Horus heresy. The rules for it are fine for heresy, power level wise. Although it is worthy of note that it's not plastic, and people have spoken about that during the week. Yes, Games Workshop was never going to do it in plastic, guys. It's not worth it to them financially. They have the facilities to do it. You know, like the amount of plastic molds required to make something like this, not actually that much. Some people are like, oh, it would take 14 sprues from their biggest sprue maker, and yeah, maybe.
I believe he said a plastic printer. No, sprue printer. That's sprue printer, bro. I need that sprue printer.
Yeah, well, people have sprue printers in their own house. I don't care about his terminology. I was a bit confused at first. I was like, do you mean plastic injection molder? And apparently that's what he meant, so leave it at that. I'm not going to pick on our viewers over semantics. But yeah...
I don't know. He could have been fucking high, mate. He could have just been talking shit.
He could have been. Who knows?
Fuck, I'm going to get...
Rumour confirmed, right? 14 plastic sprues confirmed.
Well, he was just talking... He was relaying information from a Games Workshop manager, so
yes,
we all know they're full of shit.
Yeah, well, this is the same company that, what did they say? They recruit for attitude, not skill or knowledge.
Yeah, well, it's like you used fucking sales car lot, man. You're not there to sell people. It's hard to sell a used car because, like the 30k buy, swap, and sell page, you're just buying other people's problems. So you want to get them to buy emotions, not a product, because people love buying them.
Do you want to talk about that for a moment, about Games Workshop managers? Because I get a lot of horror stories in the comments or in personal messages. And Games Workshop managers are really hit and miss. Like, for some people, they reckon their local community is just being trashed, basically, by their Games Workshop managers. Like, people in Sydney reckon there's one in the heart of Sydney CBD that's just fucked it. Like, it's gone in and separated like the veteran gamers from the newbies, and now like the veterans can't give their advice to the new players and shit like that. Whereas other people I know personally are really good managers. You know, like dude Deku runs the Liverpool Games Workshop, top bloke, right? And doesn't try and rape your wallet when you go in, just gives you legitimate advice. And that's the problem with Games Workshop's approach, right? Their hiring policies, they're fucked. So...
Well, everyone's an individual. Some people are going to be better at the job than others. It's just the way it is. But obviously some people are going to be trying to sell snake oils where others don't.
Well, look at the old days. Like, you and I were both there back when you had multiple staff, like 2 or 3 staff. 3 staff generally on a Thursday or Friday. The shit staff get weeded out that way. because the other ones will generally get them to change their attitude. And, instead of trying to rape your wallet, there was like someone around who could rape your wallet, but generally they'll always have something else on. Like, one of them will be teaching painting, or one of them will be running games. And there was plenty of staff to go around. Now with all these one-man stores, the staff member can't devote their time to the hobbyist, and I think that's really let them down. I really do think they need to have at least 2 people on in their stores.
They've got those little kits and be like, oh, help us, buy this and we'll show you how to build and paint it. So I have seen one of those when I went to Melbourne, I think, for an event. There was a dude, the manager there was trying to sell shit and also help people hobby, and it was just really awkward. They're overstretched, definitely, but who cares? They've got a small radius. They cover in a small radius.
You can't have them on at all times, right? But 2 staff, I think, is really mandatory for like Thursday, Friday nights, and probably Saturday, Sundays.
They're not doing anything.
Not for all hours, but those are the peak periods. Have always been the peak periods for Games Workshop, in my experience, because like Thursday, Friday nights are when a lot of the veteran gamers would come in and have all their games and stuff and do a lot of the painting and jaw off to each other as they paint.
Any of the real gamers don't go to a Games Workshop, so just saying that. If you go to the Games Workshop and you consider yourself a real gamer, 1v1 me in Skyrim, mate, I don't give a fuck.
I would happily go to a Games Workshop if A, there was one located nearby these days, and B, I didn't feel like a fucking pedophile when I walked in. Like,
my attitude, I'm too old for that shit.
I could shave the beard, leave the mustache, and get some wireframe glasses, give myself a sick comb over, and I'd look like a fucking pedophile, right, hanging out in a Games Workshop. Because it's full of like 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids, right? And they're not the market. No matter how much people like to bullshit to me, they are not the people buying the most Games Workshop stuff, especially because you see how much shit they've got, and they've got fuck all in their figure cases. And you come back 3 months later and they're still working on the same shit. Whereas the people that are buying online and gaming at clubs, they're the people who are buying the most Citadel products, right? And those people are all senior people. But they don't want to go into a Games Workshop.
Senior citizens, almost.
Well, not that old, but guys in their mid-20s, mid-30s, let's say like 24 and up. They don't want to sit there and try and talk with 13 and 14-year-olds, right? Because they've got no similar interests. And just the generation gap is too much. And in the old days, they could do it, because in the old days, you could sit there and give each other advice. Well, usually mentoring. Hey kid, why don't you try this? Maybe if you do this, and as much as a staff member, the older veterans could give advice to the new people coming in and take the time to, like I would help out GW back when I was 20, 21, well, not even, probably 18, before I even joined the army, help out running intro games.
Well, the only real way you're going to fucking help them is if you throw a Molotov through their fucking window, so... That's not condoning any violence. Molotov means happiness.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel sad that they've lost that, and some
I feel happy
friendly local gaming stores do have that environment, where older players and younger players can get together and mentor one another, but Games Workshop has lost that, in my opinion. Not all of them. I'm sure I'm going to get someone in the fucking comments. But here in Germany, in fucking Hamburg, there's a great Games Workshop, and everyone gets along hunky-dory, yeah? But that's an outlier, in my experience. So, anyway, chin wagged on enough. Let's look at new releases from Games Workshop. So we have the Caradon Overlords. So some Age of Slut Shame stuff has come out. Hey there, blimpy boy, flying in the sky so fancy free.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's stupid.
I don't like it either. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if people are going to get this.
World of Warcraft shit.
Well, that, but the Fifth Element, the Chinese takeout.
Oh my god, I love it now. Fuck. You just made me like that thing. Holy crap. Shit. All right, you just made it cool. Fucking hell. All right. Sick.
I kind of want to get one
Holy
and
crap! Yes,
turn it
make
into the
yeah.
takeout joint and then put it
Yeah,
like
and then
on the Necromunda table just to fuck with Necromunda players or
have some airline dude,
Necromunda as I shall call
have
it.
some airline dude fucking dragging his ass. The Asian takeaway dude's dragging his ass away from his seat.
Multipass.
But I own it. No, that's sick. That'd be sick, man. That'd be
Chinese takeout dude.
yeah, it'd be cool.
Probably like racist as fuck of me because like I'm not one of those one of the minorities, so I'm not allowed to do fun things like that. But
Everyone's a minority.
yeah, pretty much. I don't know. It's the internet, right? You have a fun idea, someone always gets shitty about it. Oddly enough, except for the minorities, it's always some like white fucking cultural guilt fucking issue.
Wait, $140 for that thing? Get out of here! No, I'm not getting one. Fuck that.
China will sort you out, mate.
Yeah,
China will have it half price 3 weeks from now.
Thanks to all this fucking war going on, our fucking currency's dropping.
People will get shitty that we're mentioning recast, but come on, if you don't know they're out there, you can buy fucking basically recast iPhones, right? Knock off iPhones. You know, naturally you're gonna find fucking recast models. All these books, yeah, they're PDFs free to download from your friendly local Pirate Bay. You know, I'm not saying do it, but by the same token, people know that they're there. Apart from that, yeah, some books dropped, some sort of like battle tomes for the Caradon overlords. But basically, these are squats, right? They might make some decent squats. I don't know. Is that Arcanaut Company? Do they have like?
I've seen someone do something with it. They gave him like bolters. They had to cut down. They cut down Space Marine arms and attached them to essentially what they have now. But they still looked really doable.
Oh, I'm looking at this Arcanaut Company, and there's like a dude with a harpoon and another dude with an anchor, and I'm just thinking of Futurama where whalers on the moon, we carry a harpoon. Oh, I just amused myself way too much. They're whalers on the moon, and they do carry harpoons.
I guess whalers. Fuck.
They look very robot though.
Yeah. They got those dwarven masks.
Because they got like no flesh at all showing, and their masks are very like steampunk, cyberpunk. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, they can't have any flesh exposed. They're on the moon, it'd freeze.
Well, that's true. Still, they carry harpoons because they're whalers on the moon.
Yeah, true.
Well,
yeah,
that
concludes that.
That's it for Games Workshop this week. Forge World, though, released a few new things.
Boo!
The Bright Crusaders team for Blood Bowl. Once it loads up, they're basically just a slight body swap for the existing players, I believe. I'll have to double check. Yeah, so basically torso upgrades and new heads to change the original human team to this. Rules-wise, they're exactly the same unless you're using a pre-made team out of the book. But you can run any team as whatever you want anyway in Blood Bowl. So this is just an aesthetic choice. If you want something different to the starter set, maybe this is for you. I don't know, anything you want to say about the Bright Crusaders, Kat?
Not really. I have Blood Bowl on Steam, so I don't give a fuck.
I do as well, but you won't invite me to your league because we didn't have enough people, aka, ew, Macca, get fucked.
Well, yeah, we're like fucking 4th season in. Good luck. You fucking every cunt's got like block and mighty blow. So,
yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the tabletop game anymore. I don't know why. I'm just
I enjoy the
oversaturated now.
The one downside of it is that they released all like those made to order the other week for like Chaos Dwarves and stuff, but they're not in the current season 1 at Death Zone for like the teams that are in Death Zone. The only one that got models is the humans, orcs, and the dark elves. The rest are like, you know, Nurgle's Rotters and that sort of shit. And I think Skaven are one of the teams. But anyway, yeah, none of those. Oh no, the Skaven have got models now, and Dwarves got theirs now, but like the ones that didn't have rules, the ones that got released from Games Workshop didn't have rules. The Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Dwarves, yeah, it was them and Dark Elves. So Dark Elves were good to go, Chaos Dwarves weren't. I rambled my way to my point in the end.
Hey.
So, Castellax Achaea Battle Automata.
Boo.
I love them. I'm an unashamed Thousand Suns player. I love them. With the Maw Bolt Cannon and the Aether Flame Cannon. I think I'd like an even spread of these throughout my army. Although I do want to bring a whole bunch of them to Zone Mortalis, because I think it'd be pretty fun.
You mean to table your opponent in the second turn? Nice.
Well, they've got different rules. So with the standard Castellax, they have to use a Cortex controller nearby to basically keep them from this. They got a version of similar to instinctive behavior in the Tyranids in 40k. So basically, they'll just go after the closest unit if they don't have a Cortex controller nearby. But with the Thousand Suns one, also needs a Psyker nearby, and the Psyker can actually use these guys as their point of origin for their spells, which is a cool touch. Like say your Psyker is not close enough to the enemy to cast ability, maybe it's a short range, like 12 inches or something like that. And so instead, these guys might be closer, you might palm it off to them instead and cast through them as line of sight and shit. So, that's neato. And I like the look of these as much, if not more, than the regular Castellax with their little pincy claws they got going on. And obviously the Prospero Egyptian theme with hieroglyphs and sigils and stuff. And they have karmic crystals to align their chakras in the back of their skulls, which is a neat touch. And the golden eagle, very Judge Dredd looking golden eagle on top of the Maw Bolt Cannon, and I think they've also got them on the they do, on the Aether Flame Cannon, which is kind of like basically a plasma cannon, so but powered by psychic thought and some crystal healing for you. 36-inch AP2, small blast, karmic crystals.
Is this what they really needed to fucking release? They've got books that aren't released. They have miniatures that aren't released. This is fucked, man.
This is nice. The Thousand
This is
Suns,
the new things, but it's got a new hat. This is a new fucking hat. It's just the same shit with fuck crystals on it. Get fuck off. They do. They deserve to be fucking.
All the chaos Space Marine legions deserve to be gifted.
I agree.
And kissed on the
except
dick.
1,000 Suns.
You just hate Thousand Suns, mate.
Yeah, basically.
Nobody's gonna build a pyramid for you in the afterlife. You just think about that.
Who cares? It'd be bombed by wolves anyway. Sup?
Oh snap. Words hurt, man. Words hurt. Yeah. No. Well, look, Space Wolves. I don't give a shit about Space Wolves getting like giant wolves and shit like that from Forge World. Because, like, at the end of the day, they've been kissed on the dick for, like, 3 editions in 40k. So, I don't give a shit. Same with, like, Blood Angels and stuff. Like, Blood Angels are cool. I really like Blood Angels. But, again, really well looked after by Games Workshop over the years. Chaos as a whole, with, like, Thousand Suns and Death Guard, World Eaters, whatever. Especially the other legions, the ones that aren't dedicated to gods. Like, Night Lords got that shitty upgrade set with Batsy Wings. In 3rd edition, Alpha Legion, they don't have anything. Iron Warriors got a small bone given to them with the Warsmith, I guess it is. It was like that 3rd edition Warsmith and some torsos and las cannon upgrades that were Iron Warriors-y, but really they got nothing. And so it is nice just for, Games Workshop and Forge World giving Thousand Suns and Chaos a bit of a bone, and, well, let's be honest, they probably won't touch them again for 20 years. But something is nice, so I'll take what I can get.
Something. They've released multiple things. It's just unnecessary.
There's
they
more
already
stuff
had.
coming.
Why
More
just
stuff
not
coming.
release? Of course they fucking is.
Well,
Oh,
the
they've got their
segment
special units
Terminators
and
coming.
shit.
The
Yeah.
Kentai Blade at Colt is
See,
coming.
maybe that would make sense. This is just the same fucking Mechanicum units
Well, it's
with new
different.
fucking hats. It's ridiculous.
At least it's quite a different sculpt to the regular
No, it's
Castalics.
just taking up resources. They're already
As opposed to the two
dragged out.
Thunderwolves that go with Lim and Russ.
No, that's fine. That's just
Or
with
the
the fucking. That's with the
Ultramarines
fucking
and
thing.
their boarding shields. Not only do they get a set
At
of
least
boarding
that's
shield dudes, but they got an actual set of custom boarding shields.
okay. This is automata for. Why don't they bring out automata for all the fucking legions then? How about that? Let's
Iron
waste the
Warrior's got the
entire
Iron
next.
Circle.
Let's waste the entire fucking next 10
Dude.
years. Yeah, but I'm not getting Ultramarines Castellax. Where are my Ultramarines Castellax? Where are my fucking
They
where
got
are my Iron
regular
Hands
Castellax.
Castellax? No, but I want them to have a little Ultramarine symbol on their head. The fucking
But why would they?
these Thousand Suns one. Fucking why? That's
Okay,
exactly
okay.
right.
But hang
Fuck
on,
that.
look at
why
why.
they all they
Look
get
at why
a year?
they have them. Thousand Suns have them
Oh, who
because
gives a
they're
fuck?
psychic,
Here's the
right?
thing. Fuck that fluff. They have a year to produce a certain amount of shit. They have enough money, resources to produce, say, whatever. We'll say 12 things per year. They've legitimately put resources into doing this when they could have brought out Terminators for Thousand Suns. They're fucking cunts with the swords. They're recon squads because they're. Well, maybe not the recon squads, but you know they have they have a special recon squad,
Yes, they
right?
do.
But I'm guessing you could just paint that up normally. But the dudes with the fucking swords, the wolves special units. I don't know. Is there any other special units that really haven't been brought out yet in the other books? I'm fairly sure there is.
All right. So, off the top of my head, Learning and Terminators for the Alpha Legion.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
That's a big one, as well as their Primarch. Ruggle Dawn hasn't been bought out yet. They've only just bought out the assault cannons and that for 30k, which both Blood Angels and Imperial Fists have had in their rules since 2013 or 14, something like that, when book 2 or 3 dropped. I think it was 2014. It started 2014, book 3 dropped, and it said, yep, you can give them assault cannons. And then they didn't bring any out until, like, what, a month ago? So, that's definitely something. What else has there been? Raven Guard have finally got all their stuff, except they haven't got any of their special characters. The Moritat only just got released. I think consoles is where they're lacking the most. They need to bring out all the console types. So like your Saboteur, your Vigilator, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously a 30k Chaplain and 30k Librarian, because they don't exist right now unless you want to go GW Plastics and get really happy with the old hack and slash. So there's definitely things there, but I think the Psychic Automata has a lot to do with the fluff for their Thousand Suns Forge World, and they've just sort of rolled over a unit into the Thousand Suns Legion, so they didn't have to do up rules for a one-off Psychic Forge World, because I think that just would have eaten more resources, so they've just sort of shoehorned it in as much as anything, and that's why this is there. That's my take.
Meanwhile,
on it anyway.
book fucking 8 will come in 2020. No.
Well, book 8 would be next year, but the problem is what happens with 8th edition, because we're in that horrible place now where 8th edition goes that second ed approach. It's gonna fuck all the previous books, and the next book is gonna have to be a rewrite. So, well, like, you know, anything they've prepared already outside the fluff, rules wise, is gonna have to be changed up. Like, even if it's got Dark Angels and Blood Angels in it, they might have to completely rewrite their Legion rules. So, I don't know. But yeah, I'm totally happy with the Castellax Archaea. It's nice to see some Thousand
That's
Suns
probably why
stuff.
they did it then. They're just wasting time now. They're just marking time while GW brings out 8th edition and still tries to produce it, because obviously they're not done yet.
I do think my one big problem... Actually, I've got two big problems with how they've done the Horus Heresy so far. The first is they should have released the rules for every single Legion at the very start. Right? They didn't have to be in depth, but they could have been like the Book 6 rules, where you just got a really quick summary with a little bit of war gear, but none of the characters or specialist units. Right? And it would have given everyone a direction to go in with building their armies, because a lot of people haven't got into the Horus Heresy yet with the Legion side of things, because they don't know exactly where they're going with it. You know, like, Dark Angels players wouldn't have known that Iron Wing was going to be part of the focus of their Rights of War, for example. So they wouldn't have known that there is a viable, okay, we'll call it semi-viable, it's not the very good Right of War, way of doing a tank-heavy list, right? So that was a big problem off the get-go, because a lot of people have not touched the heresy yet. They want to, and have said it to me, personally. They haven't touched it because they're not confident in making a purchase. They're like, what if I buy this and I can't use it, or I can use it but it's restricted and it's fighting with other things for this slot and I've just wasted all this money. So that's been a big problem. The other problem is where they're focusing their sculpts. Instead of knocking out transfers, torso, helmet and shoulder pads for every legion, they went out and made like a dozen super heavies. And last time I checked, you can't put a dozen different types of fucking super heavy in your army. So why is there this big focus on Wars of War? Like, oh look, there's 8 versions
People
of fucking
wank off to that
tank.
shit.
Well, people themselves are at fault here, because the first thing I see in a lot of people's armies is a lot of war. It's like the only thing they fucking paint. Oh, I'm going to start a Raven Guard force, and they go out and build a Thunderhawk. Or, I want to start an Iron Warriors force, and they go out and they buy a fucking Typhon tank. And you're like, oh, that's cool, man. Where's your infantry? Oh, no, I haven't got any yet. Oh, I haven't painted any yet. It's like, well, why the fuck did you start with that Lord of War? Like, always when you start an army, build 2 troops in a HQ, because then you can actually have some fucking games with it.
Yeah, that's the old boys school of thinking. That's not a thing anymore, I don't think.
Nah, they'll probably make a war scroll for fucking bringing your friendly Lord of War to a friendly game.
5-point HQ upgrade.
Games Workshop pisses me off with that. Hey, that's something they've gotten consistently wrong. That whole Unbound started the fucking cycle of shit, the downward spiral into the toilet, where they've gone, oh, just bring whatever you want to 40k, man. Just, you want to bring a Titan, bring a Titan. There's just no
Isn't that
restriction on
called
it.
Apocalypse?
But they don't call it Apocalypse, they just call it 40k now. Like, people can bring a Titan to a regular game of 40k. Like, what the fuck? At least Horus Heresy puts restrictions on that shit. Or they just formations and data slates. Like, especially that Decurium piss with the Necrons. Oh yeah, I'm just going to take all the best shit in my codex in formations, and then it still counts as a Battleforge list? Like, how does that still count as a Battleforge list? Come on, people who say, oh, it's impossible to balance 40k, you go back to just 5th edition. 5th edition was pretty balanced overall. At the time, I thought it was more unbalanced than 3rd and 4th, but time has proven me fucking wrong, right? You go back to 5th edition, yes, there was some power creep there, right? A few codexes just weren't competitive. But, especially all that Matt Ward level stuff was all on par with each other. Like, Necrons, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Dark Eldar, they were all really competitive with one another at the same level. It wasn't perfect balance, but it was decent balance. Did you find that with 5th edition, Cat, that a lot of those lists were pretty well balanced against each other?
Yeah, well, that's because everyone was using that Force Org. That's, well,
yeah,
in 5th edition, that's where all the gamers were playing from that. But that's
they've
from
ruined that.
when I came in, that
they've
was
made balance
the thing,
worse.
The whole compulsory choice, compulsory HQ and a troops, and that's how I write a lot of my army lists now. Actually,
yes, I always start with the HQ and 2 troops. That's always been my thing. And 5th edition was the last time they got it right, because ever since detachments and formations, detachments used to be like, you go back 10 years in White Dwarf, a model would come out and they put rules for it into White Dwarf, and that was your detachment, right? But it still went into the regular Force Org chart. Here is a new model, here is its rules. You can play it in this slot in the Force Org chart, right? It wasn't just add it to your army, right? And that's where a lot of this problem comes from. It's like you can have a Tau army, which just loads up on, say, broadside battlesuits or riptides in heavy support or elites or whatever, and then they just go, I'm going to get a detachment of another one, and then just outside the Force Org chart, just this random thing just gets added on. It's like you've just added an extra Force Org slot without saying you have. Like, they've fucked the balance, which is shitty choices. Like, oh, but little Billy, went out and didn't buy 2 troops in a HQ when he started his army. He went out and bought 3 Predator tanks. Why can't he run his army? It's like, well, when I started the fucking game in 2nd Ed, everyone knew if you want to start an army, you buy 2 troops in a HQ, or until you have that, you can eat shit and don't game. Right? That's just the way it is. You go and play tennis, right? You gotta rock up with tennis ball and tennis racket. If you don't have either of those things, you're gonna struggle to fucking have a game. They don't just change the rules of tennis to, play with your cricket bat, champ. Play with your baseball bat. Oh, use a fucking cricket ball. Use a baseball. Right? So, Games Workshop moved the fucking goalposts, and it's allowed just shit to go wrong with this hobby that didn't need to go wrong. Have I ranted enough about this, or?
Yes, you have. But that's like, I guess, the whole monkey syndrome thing. The story goes there's like one monkey in a cage, right? And they put a banana in there, and every time the monkey goes for the banana, they shock the monkey, and then they introduced another monkey into that, and then when that new introduced monkey goes to get the banana, the scientists didn't need to fucking shock the monkey, because the one that'd been shocked would beat the monkey until, just wouldn't go for it. And eventually, they'd cycle through all these monkeys, they'd pull out the original monkey that had been electrocuted. There'd be all these monkeys that never been electrocuted before, that just always, whenever they tried to reach for the banana, they'd get their ass handed to them, right? And then, this new monkey gets introduced. He's like, what the fuck? There's a perfectly good banana up there. I'm going to go for the banana. So he goes to go for the banana, and all these other monkeys start kicking his fucking ass, beating the fucking living shit out of him. It's like, the fuck are you doing? It's just like, I don't know. It's just always been like this. And they just continue to beat his ass.
Sounds like the fucking army.
So that's fuck that. Like, just because I'm all for progress, cool, whatever. There's probably a better way to make the Force Organization charts, but with the Forge World books the way that they are, especially given that most of their rights of war or limitations, you need to take an extra troop choice. So that means you need 3 troop choices and a HQ, and then you can spend your points wherever else you decide. There is that restriction, and then if you're not following that restriction, you're not following the guidelines, and the opponent is probably assuming that you're going to be following. Unless you have some pre-made agreement, it's cool. Like, I like the Centurion format and stuff like that. I'm going to try and base a lot of my armies off of that.
Well, what are the problems that we're worried about them taking, doing something radical with 8th edition,
yeah,
which
course,
doesn't
absolutely.
need to be done? And
but that's I'm really not worried about that.
Part of the problem here is Games Workshop's Strong Arms Forge World, because they're the overlords of Forge World, notionally, well, literally. Instead of Forge World just getting a 7th edition fucking codex, right, and just producing it themselves, like they do with the black books, right? They should just sell from Forge World directly. Here is the rules to go with Horus Heresy. Here is your basic rulebook, right? That's what they should be doing. And instead, every time 40k changes edition, they go, Forge World, change your edition. Forge World has to fucking jump, right? And that has caused so many fucking problems in the past. Like, good mates of mine, like Dino. Dino has every fucking Imperial armor book ever, right? And Dino's a pretty fucking nice guy, right, Kat? Like, he's probably the nicest guy we know.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dino is pissed off about that, because he's like, he spent hundreds of dollars. He's like, oh, it's still, the fluff's still cool, and the pictures and stuff are cool, but I can't use the rules in any of these books that I paid like $100 a book for. And that's shit. It's like, yeah, Forge World needs to stop jumping to Games Workshop's tune and just say, alright, cunt, you want to make 8th edition, you go and do it, we're going to stick with 7th for the Horus Heresy system. And that's what they need to do, instead of trying to constantly keep up with Games Workshop. Because Games Workshop's like a fucking schizophrenic. They just like snort a line of coke, and then they go, oh, I just had this great idea, and then they do like this rapid fucking major change and overhaul to the system. And then everyone else is like, what the fuck did you do that for? Oh, shit, what do we do? FAQ. And then 6 months later, they finally get an FAQ out for it. But it's too late. It's gone to shit. And every time they do it, everything grinds to a halt. The releases slow down, the books slow down, the rules slow down, the FAQs die in the arse. Forge World, Games Workshop, also, like we've mentioned before, trying to get in on like the Horus Heresy, and they're releasing their own stuff for it, but they don't understand what has drawn people in, and they're like, they don't get it. As I've said on another episode, I won't go through the full analogy, but they're like the foreign filmmaker. They don't understand your culture, your humour style, and they're trying to make a film to suit it, and it just turns to shit. And that's Games Workshop right now, man. So
I'm not worried about what GW do, whether they do it. Forge will either pick up the slack and make a more mature game system, or the community will. So either way, I can see it going a better line if the community do it, because then it's really down to the individual game, and then you can really fine-tooth comb your player base and what you can define how you play, really. So you don't have to deal with shitty rules and books.
Well, part of the downside of Age of Sigmar that people don't talk about is it did split the community. As much as people like to say they love Age of Sigmar or they love 9th edition, the fan-made fantasy, you've now cut your fantasy player base. Whether it was in half or a third or a quarter, it doesn't matter. Because you've lost people. A lot of them were veteran gamers. Like, a lot of people who are older generally have decided to stick with fantasy as opposed to Age of Sigmar. Some haven't. Some older people got back into it. But, your community became, I think, worse off in some ways for it. Because all these people that, used to put in and go out and spend time at stores and actually play their army and rock up to events and build their community have just gone, no, the hell with it. And, I don't know, that's a downer. And that's what would happen if 8th edition is a radical change to the Horus heresy. Some players will be like, they'll adapt to 8th edition and roll with it, and other players will go, nah, that's shit, and they'll stick with 7th ed and they'll house rule it.
Okay, alright, with that, I just got to quickly touch on the fucking Blanche, whichever Blanche decided to get up me for the thing. The post was about, because the guys from I Have Horus podcast been on my ass about it, so I'll level with them. And this actually goes on towards their thing, because they had an episode on citizen soldiers, so they want people to go have a set of terrain that they can bring to an event, or that they can bring to somebody's house and show them, basically. The game system, have a fully set painted terrain, have either a game mat or whatever. The post was about if the GW store had a policy of you can bring in terrain, but it had to be 80% Games Workshop. And somebody said, I said, yeah, that's fair. That's their house. In my house, I don't like, home invaders. So I have a fucking shotgun, right? So, rule of thumb, you don't want to get shot in my house, don't fucking be a home invader, right? That's because it's my house, my rules, my house kind of thing, right? That's theirs. They can put any restrictions they want. But the difference is they want people to go there to spend money, so I can tell them to fuck off. As a customer, I can say, no, fuck that. And then Blanche being a company man, obviously, I love his art. That's great. Fantastic. His art is great. It's very grimdark. I like that about Games Workshop. That's what brought me into it. It probably shaped a lot of my life. I'm a fucking depressed fucking human being. So that's why I'm a cat, right? So, his emotion, the way he portrays his art is fantastic, right? I like his book on the 5 armies and shit. There's some great art with that as well, going outside of the Games Workshop sphere. But he's their head art designer, and he's been there for a long time. I don't know if he still is, but he was there for a good solid. I'm pretty sure he got his tenure there. But he's called me a rude young man. The staff is nice, whatever. That's fine. They can be. I'm just saying that I can say no thanks. I don't have to fucking go in there. I can do other shit. I can do other things. I can go to a third-party game store. I can play at home, which is my main poison. I prefer to play at home because I've got the home atmosphere. I didn't have kids, so my kitchen has 2 6x4s in there, city terrain, and I've got some trench terrain table. I've got a 4x4 as well that I made for Mordheim. That's kind of gone by the wayside, so that's going to be converted into a Zone Mortalis at some point. I bought 2 of those fucking kits for $60 from
Horus.
I was 30k. Fuck, goddamn! I could have spent the money elsewhere. But that's neither here nor there. That's yeah. I should have brought the fucking something easier to deal with in my life. But so that's how that went down. So whatever, like I can 80%. How the fuck do you gauge that, right? Like could I make a wall of, I don't know, plastic Space Marines, and then just get pack filler or wall filler and just like use them as the foundation of the wall? Is that what I'm supposed
like
to
the
do?
Great Wall of China situation.
I don't know what the fuck they want me from this, man. Like, yes. Fucking 260 Marines lost their lives building this wall. But you do that. Like, you put reinforced poles in like concrete and shit, right? Like, I'm sure.
Yes.
Space Marines. Maybe you should go to Space Marines, bro. I wonder. Imagine that he wants to build a house. It's
Decomposing
like, sorry.
bodies create voids in the concrete, and you've got to be careful where you put the voids. The voids are structural. Let's see.
Yeah, well, fucking steel rusts. So, what up?
It does. It
Sure,
helps it
I'm
bind
sure.
to the concrete.
Eventually, it'll collapse. Eventually, it has to collapse unless it gets
They're very funny about it.
consistence.
You know, one thing that's always I've found funny, whenever I have a go at Games Workshop's business model, and yes, their business is a lot bigger than mine, and they make 100... But, you know, there's certain rules about business that you sort of got to abide by to be successful as a company, such as, you know, innovation at the right times, expanding into the right fields, and, you know, Games Workshop sort of palming off 3D printing, for example, is, you know, like when Kodak, the camera film company, went, oh no, digital cameras aren't going to take off, and look where they are now. So, you know, same with people who were making cathode ray televisions. And it's like, sorry, they're gone now. Everything's LCD or plasma, or LED. So, you know, times change, and people say, oh, if you know so much about it, why don't you start your own business? It's like, okay, Games Workshop's business was in the right place at the right time. They started up in the 70s, working with Gary Gygax, right, doing D&D stuff, and he didn't know what kind of size company they were. The cunts were literally living out of a fucking house in Britain and selling to, like, you know, they lived in like an apartment building in Britain, and they were selling to cunts who just come up and knock on their door, right? And they were selling like D&D stuff to them, and eventually they started making models, and, you know, they grew from there. They were just the only people doing that sort of models, right? The fantasy models at that point in time. And that's why they got successful, and they had some great artists and some cool ideas in like the 80s and 90s, and that allowed them to take off. And so they got corrupt, and they went to, or not corrupt, but very greedy, especially when they went to having shareholders, right? When they became a publicly owned company. And because of that, right, they got huge and started upping all the prices on things, and then they started to get lax and started to say, you know, people have no choice but to come to us. And then all the third parties came along, and the reason a lot of the third parties are successful, sorry, a bit tongue-tied there, because they got a lot of ex-GW staff who'd been alienated by Games Workshop's terrible fucking policies, right? Like Alessio Cavator, who did a lot of stuff for Lord of the Rings, Mordheim, wrote like the 3.5 Chaos decks, the 6th edition Chaos Army book for fantasy, wrote fantasy in 6th edition, you know, did tons of shit. Like, he got fucked around by them, and so he went off and started Mantic, right? Who else? Is it Matt Hudson, maybe? Oh, I can't remember who else went off and is doing like Drop Fleet Commander and working for Hawk War Games, doing Drop Zone Commander and Drop Fleet. And, you know, that's why these companies have come along at the right time to compete with Games Workshop for them. A lot of them came about in the recession, the global financial crisis, when a lot of these companies started popping up, because GW got hit hard and people's wallets were hurting, and people were looking for cheaper alternatives. And so I can't just go out and start up my own version of Games Workshop, especially because I don't have the IP, right? A lot of the IP that Games Workshop has is stolen from other people. And I don't mean that in a malicious way, but, you know, they didn't come up with orcs, they didn't come up with elves, they definitely didn't come up with the Grimdark of 40k. That is just literally a direct rip of Judge Dredd, right? But they made it their own and changed it around a little bit, and they've got what they've got. And other companies just haven't really had that success with those same IPs yet. Except for Blizzard, because Games Workshop in the 90s, when Blizzard approached them about doing a fantasy and 40k game, Games Workshop told them to fuck off, and Blizzard went and made Warcraft and Starcraft and did their own thing.
Blizzard was going to go down that track.
They probably would have gone down it anyway.
They decided to be like, nah, fuck the Games Workshop thing. They had too many memes about it apparently, and they were just like, oh, we'll do our own thing.
Oh, there's a lot of stipulations I hear, and you know, it's a rumor mill. We'll probably never get the full details of it, but Games Workshop fucked Blizzard
has less
around.
money than Blizzard.
Yeah,
what up?
And the irony of it now is it's come full circle where Games Workshop's trying to ape Blizzard. You know, the style of Dawn of War 3 is definitely pushing that StarCraft style. And obviously the Warcraft look is so endemic across Games Workshop's plastic range now. It's ridiculous. So, you know, what can one say? But yeah, that's pretty much all there is this episode. Kat, do you have anything to say to our lovely audience?
Anyone playing Dawn of War 3? I looked at it. Not a fan.
I've been playing a lot of Total War Warhammer, and I've been enjoying it, but the game knows how to make me rage, because not only is it rather difficult, but every time I get near to winning it, I get a corruption in the files, and the game just keeps crashing. And it's happened every time. Every time I've been on a winning streak, it crashes out, and I'll load like the autosave on my last save file, and it keeps crashing out. I'm like, what the fuck? But then when I'm in a losing campaign, it seems to run hunky dory. So, and yeah, that auto resolve button. Oh man, the amount of times auto resolve I've gone in like, this is a surefire win. I'll just hit the auto resolve, and then I've just had my ass handed to me, and I'm like, what the fuck went wrong?
You rolled a 1.
Yeah, I failed a 2-inch.
That's the new system.
Failed a 3-inch charge.
That's the new speed system that GW come out with 8th edition. So both opponents roll a d6, highest wins the game. There you go.
Yes.
Just like I said last episode. What up, rehash, motherfuckers? Yeah, nah, pretty much that's about it. I got nothing.
I think we should say as well, people, leave your questions to us below. Obviously, do get on our Facebook. We're not hugely active on our Outer Circle Facebook page, but any new videos that come out definitely go up there. Things we want to point out, pictures throughout the week. If you've got questions for our episodes of Scrubdown, we're happy to answer them and give you our opinions. So always put questions up and leave your comments in the video below. Apart from that, goodbye, and we'll see you all next time.